How long do you have to sell an inherited house? Hey guys, this is Brad from GeorgiaProbateResource.com and ArborViewHomebuyers.com. Thanks for checking out the video. So this is a question that gets asked a lot. How long do you have to sell a house in probate? And the answer to that is it depends. So you really have to think about, let's call it obligations, right? The reality is if you don't have any obligations and you don't owe any heirs money and you don't owe any creditors money and you don't owe the bank any money, you can kind of take as long as you want to sell the house, right? It'll just stay in the name of the estate for the time being. Now, there are some complications to that. If you ever need to, set up change utilities or anything like that, it might be a little more difficult. You're going to have to provide all your administrator, executor paperwork. It might make things a little more complicated. But if you inherit a house, you want to make sure that you are fulfilling any debt obligations. If there's a mortgage on the house, obviously you want to make sure the property taxes are getting paid. I can't tell you how many houses we've seen get lost after a probate because they forgot to pay the mortgage payment or they forgot to pay the property taxes. The reality is yes, the mortgage company won't talk to you unless you provide them proper paperwork, but they don't really care where the check comes from, so just send a check to them. Even if it's coming out of your bank account, I would highly suggest that you pay it out of the decedent's bank account or the estate's bank account, just to make sure that they don't ask any questions. But if you've got to cut a check out of your personal account and then later reimburse yourself as an executor because you paid those expenses personally, then albeit do it, because you don't want that house to get behind on the mortgage payments. You don't want to get behind on property taxes, because someone else could take the house and you don't want to lose it. And obviously that shortens your timeline. But like I said, if you don't have any debt obligations on this house, you don't owe anything to mortgage companies or even other creditors out there. There could be other creditors that might have the ability to foreclose on the house. For instance, there are some instances where some HOAs, if you don't pay the HOA dues, they can actually foreclose on your house and take it back. You'll have to check your bylaws for your specific community, and they're called the CCNRs, and read those to ensure that whether they can or can't do that. You probably want to consult an attorney about that as well. But if you don't pay those, sometimes in some instances they can take the house back. So you want to make sure that you're double checking when you've inherited a house whether someone else could take it away from you. If you've sort of, and I would suggest you consult an attorney about this, but if you've looked at everything, really you don't have to sell the house right away, but if typically in most situations there's other heirs involved, and you're only going to sort of upset them and make things more complicated the longer you hold the house. I can't tell you how many situations where we've spoken to someone who wants to sell a house and maybe their brother has been living in the house for 2 years since their mom died. And basically the brother's just freeloading off of the estate, and it's making all the rest of the siblings frustrated with the situation because they're like, look, we just want to sell this house and be done with it. We want the money, and brother's living there, and we don't want to ask him to move out because they don't want to ruffle any feathers. But the reality is they end up selling the house to us, and then we've got to get the brother out of the house, whether we evict him out of the house or we pay him to leave or make alternate arrangements with him. But we've had to do that on multiple occasions, and it gets a little bit more complicated when you have to get that involved. And obviously if I have to then get the brother out, I'm not going to be able to pay you as much money for the house because I'm charging you for the pain in the butt factor to have to deal with the brother. I'm going to ask for a discount on the house so that I can deal with him. And that makes it a little more complicated for us if we ever, go do legal proceedings. So make sure that you're making sure all the payments are made on the house, the mortgage payments, the property taxes, the HOA dues, all that stuff. And really, again, these places don't really care where the check comes from as long as they get a check and as long as they get their money. So make sure you're doing that, and then make sure you're checking to see if they had other creditors involved. A lot of times, if you can, figure out a way to pull a copy, reach out to the credit bureaus and get a copy of the credit report. Once you have your administrator letters, your executor letters and stuff like that, you can reach out to the credit bureaus and say, hey, I'm trying to check for creditors that mom or dad, owed, and I want to pull a copy of their credit file so I can see if there's any other creditors that I don't know about. So that's another avenue there. So just make sure everybody's getting paid. And really, you could wait as long as you want to sell the house, but the reality is most people do it pretty quickly. There might be other extenuating circumstances, and we'll get into those in other videos. But I hope this helps. Thanks again for checking out GeorgiaProbateResource.com, and also ArborViewHomebuyers.com is our house buying business. We really appreciate your time, and if you have a house that you need to sell, we're a real estate solutions company. Not only do we buy houses for cash over at ArborView Properties, but we also I'm a licensed real estate agent in the state of Georgia with One Source Realty, and I can help you list the house if you want to go that route. We sort of have both of those options to you. You could either list it or you could sell it quick for cash. And we've got some other videos to help you determine what solution best fits you. So really appreciate your time, guys. Thanks again. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.